Hey everyone, and welcome to nzyme. nzyme is a small tool that allows you to defend your wireless networks, and all you need to run it is a small computer like a Raspberry Pi and a wireless network adapter that supports monitor mode. Those are 20, 30, 40 bucks. You connect them via USB. They're really just another wireless card, except the driver is supported very well and you can run them in monitor mode, which means that the card can read anything that's in the wireless spectrum, or in the Wi-Fi wireless spectrum in this case. There's a list of them in the nzyme documentation, so you can order one right now. They're really not that expensive. Now, what nzyme protects you from are things like this. This is the famous Wi-Fi Pineapple. This is actually a slightly larger version of the Wi-Fi Pineapple, or stuff like this. This is a small deauthentication attack platform. So these things are out there. They're very cheap. Everyone can get them. Like, nothing keeps you from simply buying those online in a very normal online shop. And nzyme is free software. You can download it right now from the nzyme website, and you can install it, run it on a small computer, and nzyme is going to detect these things when they're out there. Now, how it does that and how well it does that is something that we're going to look at in this intro video. This intro video is not supposed to really make you learn about how it works, how to install it, all these things. This is something you do with the documentation and with other videos that are then, however, linked in the documentation. So really just to try to get you an overview. If you think this is something that you like, go to nzyme.org, download it right from there. It's free, it's yours. You can start with it today. All right, here we are. We're looking at the nzyme web interface. This web interface is starting up with nzyme itself. So this is not an additional package, nothing else that you got to install on top of what you have already installed. If nzyme is running, there's a web interface running on top of it too. So should be pretty simple to set up. You have to be signed in to use anything in nzyme. So I'm logging in, going to log in here as an admin. If you want to use HTTPS, HTTP with TLS, there's a documentation for that on the nzyme website. It's pretty simple. You can use a self-signed certificate, obviously. You can use your real certificate. You can always put a reverse proxy in front of it. Should be pretty simple. So what you're looking at here is the dashboard. This is supposed to give you an overview of what's going on in your Wi-Fi environment. Just kind of looking at the central parts here of this page. We got no active alerts. We got no active contacts. We're going to look at contacts in another demo. This is really just the intro, really just an overview of what this thing is doing. We're going to look at that in another demo, so nothing to worry about for now. And it's none, and it's green, so that's good. And our system status is green. That could change to red if, for example, for some reason nzyme is not able to use your Wi-Fi adapter. You see this down here, this list of the probes. This is basically your list of your Wi-Fi adapters in monitor mode that are reading the Wi-Fi frames that are currently in the air. Then you got over here, you got your frame throughput. So that's basically how many frames nzyme has recorded over time. You see that this is really just kind of a quick setup that I spun up. It's nothing special. Only spun that up earlier this afternoon. And then we got a list of our alerts here. You see that we got 2 alerts. This was me testing something. We can look into that also in a second. So the goal of the dashboard here is for you to be able to open this and see that in this case, everything's all right. Now, if we click on networks, you'll get a list of all of the networks that nzyme is currently seeing in its environment. You see that 3 of these here are pretty close and all of the others are pretty far away. So nzyme can show you, based on the signal strength, how good that signal strength is. It's green, yellow, or red. It's a typical kind of urban environment where your networks are in a pretty good range and all the other neighbors' networks are not such a good kind of signal state. So that's what we're seeing here. If I click on one of those networks, or first what we see here is the network name, we see the signal strength, and we also see the BSSID, or I like to call it, just to keep it simple, the MAC address of the access point. And then nzyme is also trying to translate that into the vendor of this device. We're seeing which kind of security settings are running there. We're seeing how many fingerprints we have recorded. Fingerprints also something we're going to look into in just a second, and then also if WPS is enabled on that network or not. So if we click on this one, I can just click on this access point here. I'm going to get a list of all the networks that this access point is spinning up and which channels it's active on. See here, this access point is only spinning up this one network, and it is advertising or active on 3 different channels, so 10, 11, and 12. We see here the exact security that it's using, and we also see FPS, that's frames per second. What this is for is it's basically showing that channel 11, it's a little highlighted here, I hope you can see that on the recording, but it shows us that channel 11 is the one that's currently active for this one because it has the most frames per second. This here is an access point that's switching between different channels based on the traffic on them and the signal quality and everything, but we see here that this one is channel 11. This icon here means that the network is monitored, which means that this is one of our networks, and nzyme would alert us if anyone's trying to attack this network. Click on another one here, like this one, for example. You see that this one doesn't have that little icon. So let's open that network in more details. Going to look like that. And now you see that we're looking at this access point, this network on this channel. So this access point for this network on channel 11, and we're seeing a lot of details. We're seeing here that this is the beacon rate. The beacon rate is basically how often per minute, in this case, is this access point advertising this network. This is if you click on your, I don't know, you're on your iPhone, you're on your laptop, and you click on your Wi-Fi icon, and shows you all the network in range. That list is built based on the beacons that the access points are sending. If someone was to attack this network and was trying to pull off an evil twin attack or something like that, this beacon rate would most likely change. You also see this dotted or dashed red line here on top. What this is the threshold that we have configured in nzyme for this monitored network. You see this here. nzyme has been configured to monitor this network and will raise alerts for any deviation from its configured expected state. Means that in this case, if the beacon rate is crossing this kind of normal, usual level of what we're expected to see, because someone's spinning up a second access point that's spoofing this access point, nzyme would start to alert you. You see here the signal strength per channel. This one here is only advertising on one channel right now, which is channel 11. You see our fingerprints. nzyme is calculating fingerprints of an access point, which is a pretty good way to identify the specific access point that's advertising it. If there's another fingerprint popping up than this one, nzyme would immediately alert you. And that would be because someone is trying to lure someone into their own access point, evil twin attack, karma attack, whatever you want to call it. It would most likely trigger a different fingerprint because it's different hardware, different firmware, different settings, different antennas. That will lead to a different fingerprint, and this would lead to an alert in nzyme again. So that makes it really, really hard to spoof network hardware here without being alerted by nzyme. You see here now, this is specific for this channel that we have selected. We're looking at channel 11 here. You will see that we have here this very specific channel 11 signal strength, and then we also got this signal strength waterfall. This is basically showing you in this case over the last 4 hours how the signal strength has behaved, and then nzyme is trying to kind of box this into what we call a signal track. And what that is a continuous identified signal of an access point. This is actually super important because if someone was to run a Wi-Fi pineapple, was to run any sort of attack platform that was even completely perfectly spoofing your access point to try to attack this network and try to lure people to connect to their access point, to be a man in the middle basically, or a person in the middle in this case, we would immediately detect this because it would most likely have a very different signal strength. So this is someone sitting in the parking lot, which might be many, many meters away and with several walls in between from your legitimate access point. It would show up here as a second track. And then nzyme would immediately alert you because it would show you a second track here, and it would say, hey, I have 2 different signal sources, like physical signal sources, advertising this network with the same settings. What's going on? And you could start to investigate that. That is something that is extremely hard to spoof. we can change this. We can say we want to look at the last 8 hours. This is a pretty steady signal. You see nzyme has a, it's not too hard for nzyme here to identify that that is one continuous signal track. I think, so if we look at this alert here that we had, the multiple signal tracks, and we actually look at that, and we look at the last 8 hours, here we go. So in this case, I simply moved the antenna. Because like I said, this is just a temporary setup. And you see here around this time, I moved the antenna and it moved kind of, you can see how this warped around here. And nzyme doesn't know that I moved the antenna, and you're not supposed to move it at all. But it basically noticed a difference in the signal strength, and we ended up with 2 tracks here, and it immediately started to alert us on it. In this case, this was not an attack. But it would look very, very different here in case of an attack. You would have one here on the right and then one in a completely different part of the waterfall chart here in this case. There's going to be another video of where we do exactly that. I'm going to plant a Wi-Fi pineapple or another attack platform outside of my house, and we're going to look at what that's going to look like. But just kind of keep this in mind here for now. We have a list of all the alerts that have been triggered. Trying to be really, really helpful, because I know that not everyone is really deep into this, into the kind of the basics sometimes, or the deeper theory of Wi-Fi security. So trying to be as helpful as possible here with guidance, possible false positives, all the meta information, everything that you need, because you're going to get this alert. We're trying to be as helpful as possible here from the beginning. If you want to learn more, you can always do that. And then Greylog is the other software that I'm working on. nzyme is then going to jump here to the documentation. It's going to show you more information, and it's trying to be as helpful as possible here to help you understand what it detected. And then we also have the bandits area. What this is a way, and I urge you to look into the documentation of nzyme, because it's much better explaining this, because I had some time to actually write it down. But basically, you can define very specific sources of Wi-Fi signals, and then be alerted whenever they pop up. nzyme comes out of the box with a bunch of predefined bandit definitions of known attack platforms. So let's say the new Wi-Fi pineapple here, it will be able to identify just out of the box. You can, of course, create your own if you wanted to. That's absolutely not a problem. So we can actually do that here. Test for demo. Just testing. Oops. Create this bandit. Test for demo. And then we create all these identifiers here that we wanted to. Something for a different video. Like I said, this is just an overview, but go into the nzyme documentation. You're going to get a much better idea of what this is all for, or just click around and you'll probably see a few more videos that show this in more detail. Like I said, this is the dashboard, and then we got the system status here. That's trying to give you an overview of what exactly nzyme is doing in this moment. But I think that's really the core of what it does. It protects your networks based on signatures. It protects your wireless networks, of course, based on signatures, based on fingerprints, based on known attack platforms, based on known attack patterns, as well as some things that are just really, really hard to spoof, like signal strength. Remember this here. Look at that one more time. You know, that is just really, really hard to spoof, and nzyme will alert you immediately the moment someone's trying to attack your wireless networks. And that's covered in a different video. So I hope this was a quick 10-minute overview of what this does. Again, download it, try it out, run it on a Raspberry Pi, run it on any other system that you have, and just get a feeling for it yourself.